coming in from the US. In fact, we are learning more details about the Afghan shooter who left 2 National Guard soldiers in a critical condition. On your screens right now, you can see the photos of the suspect, who is 29 years old, Ramanullah Lakhanwal. He is reported to have entered the United States under the Biden administration's Operation Allies Welcome. This program was created to resettle Afghans under the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. Lakhanwal is said to have entered the US on this special immigrant visa. Joining us live on the broadcast is my colleague Aditya Vidhavan with more details on the story. Aditya, we have in fact the fresh photo of the suspect who was involved in the White House shooting. And now we are learning of details as well that in fact he was on this special immigrant visa. We all know that after 2021, when the Taliban actually took over Afghanistan, the Afghan allies who had helped the US partners and the other countries over there, they were given this special visa in fact to leave the country and so that they could resettle in third countries. And this suspect seems to have been on that visa as well, Aditya.
Well, absolutely, Shivani. The U.S. Trump administration has now suspended all the immigration requests of the Afghan citizens as soon as this attack happened of the U.S. National Guard by an Afghan person. So indeed, there could be a lot of repercussions for the Afghani people in and around across the globe, and specifically those who are in the United States of America. Considering the fact that we saw how it was a chaotic pullout of the U.S. forces from Afghanistan way back, like 4 or 5 years back. So indeed, at this juncture now, the immigration requests have also been cancelled for all the Afghan citizens, and particularly we have seen how U.S. President Donald Trump has been very tough on this immigration stance, and indeed we could expect some major breakthrough as far as this situation entire is concerned. Shivani.
Absolutely, Aditya. In fact, please do stay on with us. Reacting to the US shooting of National Guards, US President Donald Trump has made a public statement calling it an act of terror. He has said that the guards were shot at point-blank range in a monstrous ambush-style attack just steps away from the White House. This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred. Let's in fact listen in to what he has said.
My great fellow Americans, earlier today, on the eve of the Thanksgiving holiday, 2 members of the National Guard serving in Washington, D.C. were shot at point-blank range in a monstrous ambush-style attack just steps away from the White House. They had been deputized as part of the most successful public safety and national security mission in the history of our nation's capital, the D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force, which has achieved an unprecedented reduction in violent crime and crimes of all type. This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. The hearts of all Americans tonight are with those 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard and their families. The love of our entire country is pouring out for them, and we are lifting them up in our prayers.
All right. Aditya, so we heard the US President Donald Trump over there. He has stated, he's called it an act of terror.
Well, indeed, Shivani, indeed, he is rightly, U.S. President Donald Trump has pointed out that it is indeed an act of terror, that has been done by this Afghan man. And indeed, now, all the necessary, investigations are taking place. The FBI has taken over the entire investigation, and now, in the meantime, all the whereabouts of this culprit attacker, who has attacked the U.S. National Guards just meters away from the White House. Indeed, now there will be repercussions for his known and who all were involved. Was it a coordinated attack? All this needs to be seen, and things are definitely all need to be seen how things unfold in going forward in this scenario. Sure.
Aditya, please do stay on with us. In fact, in some breaking news coming in, the US has now taken major action After the attack, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services has announced that it is immediately suspending all immigration requests related to Afghan nationals following the targeted attack by an Afghan against members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. So, Aditya, in fact, this is a major action that has been taken by the immigration services. Now, all requests have been suspended for Afghans.
Well, absolutely, indeed. This was bound to happen. All the things were having now suspended for the Afghan nationals, and definitely there could be further, stricter actions by the Trump administration because the Trump administration gives utmost priority to the national security, and indeed now it needs to be seen how things unfold going forward in this scenario because the situation is very very tense at this juncture, and it needs to be seen, how things unfold in this scenario because we have seen such self-inspired, self-styled inspired attacks by the ISIS militants in the years across the United States and the Western Europe in the recent years. And now, this could be one of those attacks. But now, as soon as the investigation goes further in this case, more things will be revealed as to who is behind the attack and who is actually responsible for this attack just meters away from the White House. Yes, Shivan.
Absolutely. In fact, Aditya, let's in fact look at who Rahmanullah Lakhanwal is, because we have been tracking who he actually is, and he is now the major prime suspect in this White House shooting case. So, this is his photograph, the latest photograph that we have for you. Who is Rahmanullah Lakhanwal? Now, Lakhanwal, he is 29 years of age, he is an Afghan national, and he is the suspected shooter who critically wounded 2 National Guard soldiers. So, he is the person who is responsible for the shooting and for actually critically injuring those 2 National Guard soldiers. Now, his last known residence was in Bellingham, Washington state. So, he was the last known residence of him was in Washington itself, where he has reportedly conducted this dastardly act. He is also a former Afghan National Army soldier who served alongside the US forces. So, clearly that's how he got that special immigration visa as well. Remember that this is granted to all those people who had actually helped the US forces when they were in Afghanistan, and after the Taliban took over, they were actually granted asylum with that special visa program. So, apparently he entered the US in 2021 under Biden administration's Operation Allies Welcome. So, this was that visa program that actually helped people, translators, interpreters, soldiers of the former Afghan, all those Afghan people who actually helped the US government, they could come into the US when the Taliban took over. Lakhanwal applied for asylum in December 2024. And he was granted approval actually from the ICE on April 23rd, 2025. So, he had also sought asylum, and he was granted permission actually from ICE in April this year itself. So, Lakhanwal has no prior criminal record in the United States of America. So, clearly he does not have any prior criminal record as well, and it remains to be seen as to why he actually took this step. In fact, let me go across to my colleague Aditya Vadhavan. Aditya, we were just talking about how this Afghan national came to the US on that special visa, and he has no prior criminal records, and yet he took this action.
Well, absolutely. Indeed, as you rightly pointed out, he had no previous criminal record, and however, still he was, working with the U.S. forces at at some point of time. And indeed, now he has carried out this heinous terror attack. Leading to the killing of 2 U.S. National Guards. So indeed, there will be an immense scrutiny upon whom he contacted, where he was living in the United States. What drove him, to carry out this attack. Was he radicalized in any form or not? All these things will be, investigated. And because the investigation has begun from the multiple angles, the FBI is involved and many other intelligence agencies of the United States are involved. So it needs to be seen, what all comes, once all these things are, investigated what all drove, what were the factors, that drove
Right.
him to attack the soldiers, because he had no previous criminal record. So indeed, there will be a long drawn investigation in this matter, since it is a matter pertaining to the national security of the United States. Shivanya.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aditya, for all those details on that story. With this, we've come to the end of this bulletin. We'll see you after this commercial.